Welcome to this episode of Adam Answers. This time around, I'm going to answer a question that comes in on Facebook from a tag called Anxiety and Me. So the question says, "Hi Adam, what do we do with clients who have a very clear picture of their preferred future, i.e. they can describe every detail of a day they wake up as the version of themselves with their desired outcome, but they do not believe that they can actually get to that preferred future. Even that the preferred future feels overwhelming." So I think this is a really important question. And in essence, what it's getting at is, how does solution-focused brief therapy really create change? So if somebody is able to answer all of our questions and describe in great detail what their preferred future will look like, but you get to the end of the session or you get to a follow-up session and they say, that future that we talked about, it sounds wonderful, but I just don't think that I can get there. I don't think that that's realistic. I don't think that I'm the kind of person that can actually make that happen. What do you do? And one of the things that I would say is you go back to the very beginning, and whatever their desired outcome was, you make that more meaningful. Now, I think that you've started hearing me talk a little bit about kind of the 3 levels of difference, and I think that's an important thing to bring in at this point. When we ask about what difference it makes, right? If I say to somebody, what's your best hopes? And somebody says, my best hopes is to have more confidence. I can ask about confidence in a couple of different ways, and the way that I choose to ask about confidence can completely change the kind of conversation that we have. So the first way is I could say, and if you woke up tomorrow with the confidence that you're hoping to have, what would be the very first thing you would notice? Or what would be different? Right? And in essence, that's the first level of difference. We're saying, if all of a sudden confidence showed up in your life, what would be different? What would be different about you? What would be different about the way that you interact with your surroundings? And so we can talk at a very surface level about difference. Well, I guess I would get up and I would stand up straight. I would smile more. Right? And those are consequential differences, but they're really contextual differences. So they're just things that I would notice. I can enhance that difference by saying, and what difference would that difference make? So that's the second level, is the difference it would make. If you woke up and you found that you were the kind of person who was standing up straight, what difference would that make? Well, it would make me feel good about myself, or maybe it would change the way I approach my day. If you let that confidence carry with you into eating breakfast, what would you notice that would be different about the way you eat breakfast when you're eating as this confident version of yourself, right? So now I'm asking about, what impact will the difference make? These signs, these signals. Now you can hear that that's a bit more meaningful. Now it changes to these external things that I'm noticing to, it means something about me that I'm able to interact in this way, or that I'm able to carry on in this way. And there's a third level of difference is precisely that, is what would it mean if you could contribute to this difference? So if I say, again, if you woke up tomorrow and you had confidence and you stood up straight, what would it mean about you as a person that you're the kind of person on this day that's standing up straight? Well, it means that I'm living the way that I'm supposed to live, or it means that I feel the way that I've been wishing I could feel forever. So now I'm getting a different kind of meaningful answer when I ask, what does it mean that this difference is present, and that this difference is an important difference? So I think one of the things, if you describe an entire scene and you get to the end and somebody says, yeah, that's really awesome, but I don't think I could be that person. One of the things that I would say is, you probably along the way didn't get into the meaning making enough. Along the way, we should highlight each of those differences, but we should say, what difference does that difference make? And what does it mean about you that you could create such a difference? Because now they're invested as, I'm doing something to create this each step of the way. And if I can do that, if I can have this meaningful impact each step of the way, there's no way I can get to the end of the conversation and not feel like I'm the kind of person that could do it. Because at least a third of my answers are, I guess it would mean that I'm this kind of person, or I guess it would mean that I would have drawn on this in order to produce that. And so that's the thing that I would say is we can ask really good noticing questions. What would you notice that would be different? And if that showed up, who else would notice? But that might not get us enough meaning so that the client feels like they have embodied this difference. So I think that's one important thing I would say. The second thing I would say is clients don't know what impact the conversation has had until they go out into their lives and they live their lives now with this conversation as part of who they are. So if we get to the end of the session and somebody says, I'm not sure I can make this happen, an easy response would be like, I'm not sure either, but do you mind as you go into your life looking for any of the signs that we've talked about today, if they show up? And if they do, could you just take note of what you did to contribute to those things showing up? So sometimes we don't notice difference until long after the process. And so if they say right away, I'm not sure this is possible, I might just acknowledge, I'm not sure it's possible either, but could you go test it and see? And then if you come back and say, well, that didn't happen, now we get to engage in a whole different conversation. So I think those are two things that I would say is remember to add meaning to your questions and to trust that change doesn't always show up immediately, because we need to go take the version of ourselves that we've become into the world and interact with the world from a new perspective. So I hope that is helpful to you. I hope that answers your question. Please send me any other questions that you have from this answer or any other questions that come up in general. But thanks again for sending this question.